Hey, so I'm now back. I'm joined with Will Keliehor from People's Group.
Hi.
So Will was the first on one of our early panels today, and they were talking more about the innovation that's happening in Canada. So we're at the Canadian Lenders Association Summit, and there's a huge amount going on here right now, isn't there? So you were standing up. Your job is Chief Client Officer, so you look after a lot of the customer interaction. Talk a little bit about what your panel was focused on this morning, because you were the first guys to take the stage.
I think regulation is a really big focus here in Canada, and also providing options for Canadian consumers. So you would have heard a lot this morning and throughout the conference talking about how we can better empower with open technologies, open banking, open data, open access, but empowering consumers to make better informed decisions, but also lenders and financial institutions also being able to use data that's available to provide greater insights. And also, too, in responsible lending, making sure that you're right-sizing the loan obligation, whether it be an automobile or a home or whatever, so that Canadians aren't over-debt burdened or aren't finding themselves underwater. And given that, socioeconomic and economic environment right now, I think in the number of new Canadians that are coming into the country, first thing you need to do is buy a car or get a rental property or something like that. And so making sure that whatever is extended to them in technology or in access to their data is the right level. Right. And I think you would have heard a lot of that this morning, a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, so open banking is something I think we probably take for granted in the UK, because it seems to be... weirdly, there's a couple of things that I've heard today, like even trade between provinces is not simple, it's not straightforward. Whereas, in Europe, everyone trades with each other, apart from the UK. And then like in America, everyone trades with each other, just not the rest of the world. So it's like there's some fun things going on. But open banking, I think, is something, so, you can just bank-to-bank transfer basically in real time, which means that money can be moved around where you need it to be, and you can see it in applications and access it quite quickly. So that also has led to, it feels like more innovation is opening up, and there was some really cool stuff that we've seen coming out of today, which is helping people. You mentioned over debt burden is one challenge, but it's how do we help consumers manage their finances in a more proactive way? So are you seeing that consumers really welcome the help with that, or are you kind of getting people that are struggling and need help with that, maybe don't ask for it but could probably do with it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously, based on the different groups. So millennials, Gen Z, they would be more inclined to accept that help. You would have heard that from Hannah Zaidi with Wealthsimple, and then the other lady from Questrade, as they look at product development roadmaps and the automation of banking. Yeah. And I forget the phrase that Hannah used, but she said, I'm going to coin that. But basically...
Was it the set it and forget it?
Yeah.
I love... One thing, there were three things that she said. One was set it and forget it. And then the other one, I'm going to find the things, because there was some great stuff.
She's really big on those one hits. But I liked what she was saying about banking should be easy. Yes. And it should be automatic. And we overcomplicate banking. So I think that, as people's trust level grows, some of the most trusted brands in the world historically have been banks.
Yes.
And there was research that's now very dated, but Apple used to be one of those. And there were others that were intimate to us in our daily lives. And banks kind of took a back seat. But throughout the crises and throughout life cycles that we all live through, banks are definitely brands that need to be trusted. So as that brand trust, continues and grows, people would feel more comfortable or confident in saying, yeah, my salary comes in, pay these bills in this order, top up this. You heard Hannah say, yeah, I want to invest here. So it's automating a lot of that. And I think Canada's ripe for that. I think that policy and I think that regulations need to come along, like data privacy is one thing that, as I said this morning, has been in the works for 8 or 9 years now, since I've been in Canada. But I think that privacy and access and security, safety and soundness of data is another key driver in how open banking and open financial services or our consumer banking really presents itself.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So in terms of like what's next, what are the big focuses for the people group in like 2025 now, as you're kind of juggling more open banking and everything, and shift regulation?
Look, I mean, this isn't a new issue. Access to data is key. But what concerns me now with the vectors of attack in cyber and the intellectual, approach that cyber attackers are taking. Hallucination is one thing in data that was mentioned by the gentleman from SAS today. That's a big worry. And the persona, because you have a public persona out there, but how can that be manipulated or fabricated? So I think to answer your question, I think one of the things we're going to have to address in open banking and open data, open access is security and validation that the data that we're getting and making decisions on is actually legitimate. Yeah. And I think that's a major challenge. I mean, look, algorithmic, interpretations and AI, Gen AI, all of these things. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but the quantum or the speed has obviously improved over the past 20, 25 years since I've been doing data and AI and data sharing. So I think it's data, it's sanitizing, making sure that the data is correct and that it's sound to make decisions on. Put that into your Gen AI algorithms and then see where it goes. But that's a major challenge and it needs to be a major focus, quality of data.
The big takeaways for me have been how you can start to be more proactive in how you manage your money, which I think is a great thing, because we can actually, with open banking, I constantly manage my money on my apps. And I move money around, and exactly what you said, Will, it's like...
You're lucky you have money to move.
Well...
Because a lot of people don't.
And that's partly because I'm completely obsessed with planning and I know exactly what my fixed financial costs are every month, and I have a separate account, and that's always been... But that was how I was raised. It was like my mum had little pots of money, so in the bank...
Jam jarring.
She literally did have little cups, It was, whatever it was, anything that had a broken handle went put in the thing, and she would put the money in it for the milk or the papers. So it gave me, I think, that discipline. What I've seen with my kids, though, is they're now coming out of school or college earning, and they don't actually have the financial education to know how to do some
Financial
of these things.
Literacy is a big issue.
It's huge.
It really is.
So I think gamification, the apps, how you can start to think about investments, I think that's one area where we just don't have... We don't feel confident enough to do it.
Right.
I think some of the innovation that we're seeing coming out of the industry now is game-changing, because it means that you can... it'll do tiny little bits of investment that you don't feel too scared about, and that allows you to kind of grow wealth rather than just survive. As you said, having money to move around.
I think, Jacqui, the next iteration or evolution in innovation in banking is going to be automating what you do manually.
Yeah.
So going to all your apps, and I'm not going to say it exactly like you did, but all of your apps, moving money around. If that was automated, where you set up, this is my profile, my persona, the way I want things managed, and then it's automated to the point to where you don't have to fret about it. You just kind of assured that this is the mandate that I've given, and I'm just assured that this is going to be done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. That's the next step.
So my banking app does say to me, oh, looks like you're running low. And it will say to me if it thinks I'm going to run out of money, because it knows what I've got one account that just has fixed outgoings, and I budget my fees in there as well.
But it just alerts you. It doesn't take any action because you haven't authorized it to?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you could authorize it, and why haven't you?
Yeah, I suppose I'm not quite ready to... It's a good question, though. I don't think I'm ready to kind of lose the control of that yet.
Yeah, sure.
But it's, and that is a good question. So it's the one thing that we were talking about this, I know that your primary focus isn't automated, but it's one of the suite of things that will come under your groups.
Lending, yeah.
But it's, but lending generally, and how we then think about overpaying. So I follow some guys on like Instagram where they talk about how you pay down your debt, like the 5, 3, 2, whatever the rule is, but you can pay down all of your credit cards, then pay down all of your short-term loans, and then pay off your mortgage, and then start to build wealth. So it's all of that. How do you start to say no to the stuff that's marketed to you? Like for me, in my age group, I get mascara because I'm 52 and people think my lashes need to be longer. I don't care about them personally. But it's like, you could market other things to me that makes me think differently about, I'm 20 years away from retirement, maybe less if I invest differently. So I think it's that kind of stuff that maybe social media could be more proactive in. But again, there are so many rules about how you market financial services to people.
Yeah, but it's strange that you'd be proactively marketed that way, because your profile and your persona and the way you act must be telling algorithms that you're concerned about your lash length or whatever.
Really not. And then, I need to opt out of that one.
And then, but you opt out, and intuitively, I mean, not to get too much into this, but it is consumer behavior. So if you're not concerned with mascara, then maybe you're concerned with, lash extensions or something. Why don't they pivot? And that's, where I think banking, people view banks in one way, but banks are becoming much more intuitive if people allow them, which is your point. And we lend here in Canada. We're one of the largest multifamily home lenders in Canada, and we do single family as well. But the real secret sauce for us is the coming together of payments and lending, so that you automate that process, so that there's value in banking the person and also providing the lending, and then taking in their investments and their income, so that you bank the whole person. I think that banks are getting better, and fintechs have really driven that amalgamation of financial services into one platform, and people are really, and you see that here with Neo Financial, you see it with Coho, you see it with Wealthsimple and some of our larger challenger banks. So here in Canada, we would have a service that you would appreciate, because they wouldn't be selling you mascara. They'd be selling you investments so you could retire earlier.
That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I know.
That's what my Alexa device needs to tell me. Is like, how do you do this? Because there are times when you just need to think differently. So, but I think like having everything in one pot. I had at one point an offset mortgage, which was the best. The bank rate was really low. So actually, just by having it in an offset, and the interest, I kind of overpaid it because the interest was so low at the time. So it meant that we could take more control of what we were doing. And there are times when you flex up or flex down, depending on affordability, or my youngest child's just left home, so finally they're not quite finished draining the bank of mum, but they still have a go. So there's a lot going on, but I think helping the younger generations think differently. You mentioned like Gen Z or millennials. I think there's a generational shift in how we think about money and finance, and financial literacy is a big topic.
Yeah, it is, and not just for generations, but also too for new Canadians coming from the subcontinent of Africa or India or wherever. I think that when you come into a new market, you really need to be educated on how to act responsibly in this market. It's not to say that they're acting nefariously,
because you have to live here for a certain amount of time to get even access to certain things, don't you? So I suppose you've got to build up enough credit to be able to function in a society to the level that everybody else. But it's a really big, big topic.
It really is. And I mean, you're pretty much paralyzed in a market if you show up and you can't transact. I mean, Canadians are very banked, but I think access to the right type of financial services is key. And I think that there are a lot of technology, a lot of great companies out there in Canada that are providing solutions. We just need to move faster, is what I was saying, and provide greater access. So that's coming.
I think that's great. And tech will just make it go. Tech will accelerate that, and actually not just the tech, but the ability to have the data in a place where the tech can access it. So open banking functions when data is hosted, and we're seeing that. We've moved a lot of data into centrally hosted places. So you can actually build the technology around the data, but you need to get your data right first. So well, thank you so much again. That was really interesting. It's been great seeing you and everybody else here talking about stuff. So
it's been a good event. Thank you.
So that was Will Keliehor from People's Group, and I'll be signing off. Thanks very much.